The heirloom ornament shattered against the marble floor as Claire's mother instinctively reached for her niece's drawing instead. Tiny shards glittered under the Christmas lights, like cruel confetti around Evan's small feet. The red and gold ornament, the one he'd carefully restored from his great-grandmother's collection, was gone. "Natalie, show Grandma what else you made at school," said Margaret, Claire's older sister, smiling as if nothing had happened. Claire's chest tightened. Her son's eyes shimmered as he knelt, gathering broken glass with trembling fingers. "Sweetheart, leave it," Claire whispered, but her voice caught. Around them, her family carried on as if Evan's heartbreak didn't exist. The laughter, the smell of pine and cinnamon, the glint of wine glasses, it all felt unreal. Claire had spent 8 years watching this same pattern, her son invisible, her family's favoritism disguised as tradition. But tonight, as she watched him hold the ruined pieces of something he'd loved, something inside her began to crack. It had started long before the ornament. Long before Evan was even old enough to understand. When Claire announced her pregnancy at 23, unplanned, unmarried, with a boyfriend who disappeared faster than the morning dew, her parents had reacted with horror. "You've ruined your life," her father had said, pacing the kitchen. Her mother had wept over the phone to relatives. By contrast, Margaret had done everything right: a finance degree, a polished husband, 2 children, and a home with a white picket fence. Her younger brother, David, had followed their father into architecture, winning family approval by default. And Claire? She became the family's whispered cautionary tale, the black sheep, the example of what not to do. But what hurt most wasn't their disappointment in her. It was how they transferred that coldness onto Evan, treating him as if his existence was a living reminder of her mistakes. "Evan seems to be catching up in reading," her mother often said with that polished smile that never reached her eyes. "That's wonderful." There was always a hidden barb tucked inside the compliment. Her father lectured Claire about financial stability while showering Margaret's kids with expensive gifts. Claire had spent years making excuses for missed birthdays, for forgotten recitals, for the empty chairs at Evan's school events. Grandpa had an important meeting, she'd tell him softly, when really her father just didn't bother. Grandma must have mixed up the date, she'd add, when another science fair came and went without them. Each lie tasted bitter. And now, watching Evan pick up the broken ornament, his small hands careful, his face fixed in that fragile composure only children learn when trying not to cry, Claire realized she'd run out of excuses. Her mother turned from admiring Natalie's drawing just as Claire spoke. "Mom," she said evenly, her voice steadier than she felt. Evan restored that ornament. It was from Grandma's collection. "Don't you have anything to say?" The room stilled. Her mother blinked, genuinely startled, as if the coat rack had suddenly spoken. "It was an accident," she replied briskly, waving her hand. "Now, Natalie." "No," Claire interrupted, standing. "Not this time." Her chair scraped the marble. "Evan, get your coat, honey." "But Mom." "Go ahead, sweetheart." Evan hesitated, then obeyed, still clutching a few glittering shards. When he disappeared down the hallway, Claire turned back. "For 8 years, I've watched you treat my son like he's invisible," she said quietly. "I've made excuses, hoping you'd see how wonderful he is. But you never have." Her father looked up from his tablet for the first time. "Claire, you're being dramatic." "Am I?" she shot back. "When was the last time you remembered his birthday without me reminding you? When did you attend one of his plays? Or look at him the way you look at Margaret's kids?" Margaret scoffed. "Just because we don't baby him." "Baby him?" Claire's laugh came sharp, humorless. "You call basic kindness babying?" Her mother rose, color flooding her neck. "We have always welcomed you both." "Welcomed?" Claire's voice trembled. "You tolerate us." The silence that followed was deafening. Claire picked up a curved shard from the floor, part of the painted red cardinal still visible. "He spent weeks fixing this. You told him it was junk, but he saw beauty in it." She held it up, letting the lights catch it. "He's 8, and he has more heart than anyone in this room." David, her younger brother, cleared his throat. Claire, you're making everyone uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, she repeated, staring at him. Where was this concern when Dad forgot to include Evan in the family vacation photos? Or when Mom ran out of space on the Christmas card? Her eyes stung, but she refused to cry. Your silence is part of the problem. Her mother folded her arms. You can't just storm out because of an ornament. Claire met her gaze. Watch me. She turned as Evan reappeared, coat half-zipped, eyes wide with confusion and something else, relief. We're leaving, Claire said firmly. And we won't be back. Merry Christmas. No one spoke. Not a soul stopped her as she took her son's hand and walked out of the house, boots clicking against polished floors, leaving behind years of swallowed pain. The drive home through holiday traffic was quiet, snowflakes drifting lazily across the windshield. Evan sat in the back seat, staring out at the glowing neighborhoods. I'm sorry about the ornament, Claire said softly, hands tight on the steering wheel. It's okay, Mom, he whispered. I can fix something else for us. His calmness broke her heart more than tears would have. You shouldn't have to fix everything, she murmured, but he didn't respond. When they got home to their small downtown apartment, she made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and turned on an old Christmas movie. They sat wrapped in blankets, the TV flickering across Evan's face. He leaned against her shoulder, and for the first time that day, she felt something unfamiliar, peace mixed with sorrow, the ache of realizing that sometimes walking away is the only act of love left. That night, after Evan fell asleep, Claire sat at the kitchen table staring at her glowing phone. Her family's group chat was exploding, angry texts, guilt trips, questions. She ignored them all. Instead, she scrolled to James's name, her supervisor at the bookstore. For years, he'd invited her and Evan to his family's Christmas celebration. She'd always declined, clinging to obligation and hope that her own family would change. No more. She pressed call. Claire? James answered, surprise in his voice. Everything okay? I was wondering if your invitation's still open, she said, her throat tight. Of course it is. We'd love to have you both. Is something wrong? His genuine concern made her eyes sting. I'll explain tomorrow, she whispered. When she hung up, she sat there a long time, feeling a strange lightness, like she'd dropped a weight she didn't know she'd been carrying. James arrived the next morning in a gray coat and a warm smile. Ready for some Christmas magic? He asked as Evan peeked from behind the door. Their drive took them across the city to a quiet neighborhood dusted with snow. James's parents' house smelled of cinnamon and pine, the kind of warmth that felt effortless. Within minutes, Evan was chatting shyly with James's nephews, laughing as they raced toy cars under the tree. Claire watched, astonished. His mother praised Evan's manners. His father taught him chess. When gifts were opened, there were small packages for Evan, books about planets, a model rocket, knitted mittens. Claire blinked back tears as she realized the contrast. This wasn't pity, it was inclusion. Real, uncalculated kindness. James caught her gaze across the room and smiled quietly. You two belong here, he mouthed. That evening, Claire's phone buzzed nonstop. Her mother's text swung from scolding to guilt-tripping. You embarrassed us. Your father's blood pressure is up. How could you ruin Christmas? Margaret sent dramatic voice notes dripping with fake sympathy. Her father offered a peace offering, a college fund for Evan, years too late. Claire didn't reply. She wasn't looking for apologies or handouts. When James dropped them off, he hesitated at her door. You okay? He asked gently. I think so, she said, smiling faintly. For the first time in years. He nodded. You did the right thing, Claire. Sometimes family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shares your heart. As she closed the door behind him, those words echoed in her chest. She looked at Evan asleep on the couch, clutching his new mittens, and whispered, We're finally free. The days after Christmas felt different. The air itself seemed lighter. Claire returned to the bookstore with a clarity she hadn't known in years. For the first time, she filled out the application for the management training program James had been urging her to pursue. You'd be great at it, he said, grinning when she handed him the form. You already run this place half the time. When she got the acceptance email 2 weeks later, she printed it and pinned it on the fridge. Mom, you got promoted. Evan cheered, wrapping his arms around her waist. We should celebrate. We will, Claire laughed, ruffling his hair. With pizza and movie night. It wasn't glamorous, but it was theirs, something no one could belittle or take away. By spring, Claire had officially become assistant manager. Her pay increased, her confidence grew, and so did her peace. When Evan's birthday came in April, she planned something special, a science-themed party at the local museum. She invited his entire class, James and his family, and the neighbors who had become friends. She even sent formal invitations to her parents, sister, and brother, knowing what would happen. The day arrived bright and loud with laughter, kids in astronaut hats racing through exhibits. Evan's eyes sparkled beneath the planetarium dome as constellations swirled overhead. He wasn't thinking about who wasn't there. He was surrounded by people who genuinely saw him. That night, Claire created a digital album from the party photos, Evan blowing out candles, laughing with friends, and posted it online with one caption. Some family is born, but the best family is chosen. The fallout came fast. Her phone exploded with calls. Her mother wept, accusing Claire of trying to humiliate them publicly. Her father fumed, threatening to cut her off. You already did, she replied simply in her one response. When you cut Evan out of your hearts. After that, she muted their numbers. She didn't owe explanations anymore. Instead, she focused on building the quiet, beautiful rhythm of her life. Work, school events, dinners with James, and long evenings helping Evan build rockets or read mystery novels. For the first time, she felt anchored in something real. She didn't realize that her quiet strength was drawing James closer every day. In May, James invited her to dinner. Just her, not Evan. His sister offered to babysit. You deserve a night out, he said. The restaurant glowed with candlelight, soft jazz playing. Claire felt nervous in her simple blue dress. James smiled across the table. I've wanted to ask you out for years, he confessed, his tone warm and steady. But I knew you weren't ready. Her heart raced. You always know the right time, she said softly. He chuckled. You taught me patience. That evening marked the start of something new, gentle, genuine, and patient. Not a rescue, but a partnership built on understanding. By summer, their relationship had grown into something steady and natural. James became part of their everyday life. Dinners, homework help, weekend hikes. He treated Evan not like a burden, but like a joy. When he attended Evan's school presentation, cheering louder than anyone, Claire saw the pride in her son's eyes. One afternoon, she caught Evan telling a friend, James helps me with my rockets. He's really cool. It wasn't about replacing anyone, it was about addition, the quiet healing that comes when kindness enters spaces long filled with pain. When her family saw photos online, Evan, James, and Claire at a picnic, they tried to reconnect. She saw through it instantly. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted proximity to her happiness. She declined every invitation with quiet resolve. Her mother called one evening. Claire, can we start fresh? Claire took a long breath. Mom, I appreciate the thought, but a start means taking responsibility. Have you ever apologized to Evan? Silence. Exactly, Claire said softly. Until you can do that, we're fine where we are. It was the first time she hung up without guilt. That night, James found her staring out the window. Hard call. She nodded. Necessary one. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Boundaries are love too, he said quietly. Even when they hurt. That December, Claire hosted her first Christmas dinner in their apartment. Small, warm, alive. James's family came, bringing laughter and desserts. Neighbors stopped by with gifts. Evan played host, proudly showing off his telescope near the window. As Claire watched him, her chest swelled with something deeper than satisfaction. It was peace. The tree glowed softly behind him, every ornament intact, including a small red cardinal she'd bought to replace the shattered one. She smiled as James came up behind her. He's happy, he murmured. He's free, she corrected gently. So am I. The revenge wasn't in angry words or dramatic exits. It was this, the quiet beauty of a life rebuilt with love and intention. Her family's absence no longer a wound, just an empty space she'd filled with something brighter. When she looked around the room that night, laughter spilling over the clink of glasses, she realized the truth. Healing isn't loud. It's quiet, consistent, and radiant. And the best revenge is thriving where they expected you to break. Months turned into years. Evan grew confident and curious, thriving at school, surrounded by friends. James was there for every milestone: school trips, science fairs, scraped knees. One spring afternoon, he came home with 2 boxes and a nervous smile. He knelt in front of both Claire and Evan. "I want to ask you both something," he said, opening one box to reveal a ring, and the other, a silver medallion engraved with family. "I'm asking both of you to let me be part of this family, for good." Evan's eyes shone as he nodded. "Can I call you Dad?" James's voice broke slightly. "Only if you want to." "I do," Evan whispered. Their small wedding took place that summer in the bookstore's courtyard, surrounded by ivy and fairy lights. Claire wore a simple ivory dress, James a navy suit. Evan stood proudly as best man, holding the rings with both hands. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd cheered, but Claire heard only Evan's voice whisper, "We did it, Mom." Tears filled her eyes. This moment, was everything the old family gatherings never were: authentic, kind, complete. 2 weeks after the wedding, an envelope arrived from David. Inside was a handwritten letter. "I was wrong," it began. "I let their silence become mine. When I saw your wedding photos online, I finally understood what we lost. They talk about Evan now. They regret everything." Claire's hands trembled as she read. James touched her arm. "You don't have to answer." "I will," she said, setting down the paper. "But on my terms." Her reply was brief. "I'm glad you've reflected, but Evan isn't a prop for regret. If Mom and Dad are ready to show love through consistent action, not just words, we can talk. Until then, we're complete with the family we've chosen." When she sent it, she felt no bitterness, only clarity. She wasn't closing a door. She was simply choosing which one stayed open. 3 years passed. One snowy morning, Evan, now 11, handed Claire a small wrapped box. "Open it, Mom." Inside was a handcrafted ornament, painted red, shaped like a cardinal, with a photo of the 3 of them framed in gold. "I saved a piece from that old Christmas," he said shyly. "I wanted to make it whole again." Tears filled her eyes as she hugged him tightly. That ornament hung at the center of their tree, a symbol not of loss, but restoration. When Claire looked at that tree each year, she didn't see absence. She saw abundance. The family dinners with laughter instead of judgment. The walls filled with Evan's drawings. The smell of cookies baked by James's mother. The life she'd built wasn't loud or flashy. It was honest. The kind that glowed quietly, like candlelight against winter glass. Her parents eventually asked for supervised visits when Evan turned 12. She discussed it with him first. "Do you want to see them?" she asked gently. He shrugged. "Maybe. But only if they're different." "They might not be," she cautioned. "Then we'll leave," he said simply. His quiet strength made her proud beyond words. The visits remained polite but distant. Her parents never again became central figures. Claire accepted that peace wasn't always reconciliation. It was understanding where not to return. By the time Evan turned 13, Margaret's perfect life had unraveled. Her husband filed for divorce, and she reached out through David, asking to meet for coffee. "Only if she apologizes to Evan first," Claire said firmly. "This isn't about me." Margaret never did. The silence that followed was answer enough. For the first time, Claire didn't ache for it. She simply moved on. David, however, slowly rebuilt a relationship with them. He visited occasionally, bringing gifts for Evan and stories from his own growing family. He showed consistency and, in time, earned trust. It wasn't perfect, but it was genuine. And that was enough. When Evan turned 10, James formally adopted him. The court date was quiet, simple, beautiful. Evan beamed when the judge handed him the final papers. "You're officially ours," Claire whispered. "I already was," he said softly, squeezing both their hands. Years later, that ornament, red cardinal, gold frame, 3 smiling faces, still hung on their Christmas tree. Around it were ornaments made by friends, co-workers, and James's nieces and nephews. There were no empty spaces for what had been lost. They had filled their lives with people who loved freely. Claire often told Evan, "Family isn't who shares your name, it's who shows up for you." And he grew up believing it. That was her legacy. Not bitterness, not revenge, but truth. She had walked away from those who couldn't love her properly and found those who could. That, she realized, was the truest revenge of all, building a life so whole, so full of genuine love, that the ones who once diminished you no longer had the power to matter. If you value stories of respect, dignity, and justice, please subscribe. It means more than you know, and it lets me keep sharing the lessons life has carved into me.